Hey everyone, how are you guys? What's up? I'm Soumya Swaminathan and this is my YouTube channel. So, welcome to my channel and thank you so much for watching. Today, for the first video, I thought to share a special memory of mine, the first classic game of chess that I studied. So, when I was about 7.5 years old, I started playing chess and we did not have any kind of sports or chess background in the family. तो जो भी सीख रहे थे अपने आप से ट्रायल एंड एरर से सीख रहे थे and I think about 2-3 months later we got my first book which was this one. Ta-da! My 60 Memorable Games by Bobby Fischer. It's an incredible book for those of you who haven't heard of it. Fischer wrote this book in 1969. So basically 3 years before he became the world champion, and it has games from 1957 to 67, all annotated by him. The description, wordings, everything is by him, and he has really described not only given variations but also described a lot of things in the game. For example, he has titled each of his games, like the game I'm going to show today is the first one of the book, and it's titled Too Little Too Late. We'll find out why. Let's go. So Fischer was white here and Sherwin James was black. He was an IM, and this game was played in 1957. At this point, Fischer was 14 years old and he actually won the US Championship the same year. So probably after this tournament. And the next year, he even became the Grandmaster. He became the youngest Grandmaster in the world at that time. By the way, I think I must mention this, that for the first 2 years that I started playing chess, I had exactly one book, and which was this one. So I actually went through Fischer's games more than once, and they had a very deep influence on me. Actually, that's the reason I decided to show this game as well, because I think it's a great starting point, and you can learn so much from his games. In general, it's amazing to study classics, any world champions. It's amazing to study the games of any world champion, especially from a book written by him. And for me, I think, when I was a kid, I also used to try and play like him because of his influence. So I used to play for initiative, play with activity. Fischer had amazing technique, by the way. It was anything but random, and he used to have this ability to finish off his opponents, which I think I also had to some extent as a kid, and I need to bring it back now. So that's another reason why I want to go through this book again. So let's go. E4. So Fischer always opened with e4. He famously quoted once, "One e4 is a good move," and his opponent replied with c5. So it's a Sicilian defense. Knight f3, e6, and here if you play d4, it's the open Sicilian, which also, which I mean is the main line basically. But Fischer opted to play d3 here, and he actually had 100% score in this variation with the d3 setup. It is called as the King's Indian attack setup. So basically, let's go back to the initial position. It is basically the King's Indian defense with reversed colors. So let's say white goes d4 on the first move, and black plays knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, bishop g7, e4, d6. This would be the King's Indian defense, and the basic idea for both the sides is that white controls the center with his pawns and black controls it with his pieces. for example, the knight is looking at e4, the bishop is looking at d4, and then he will even bring the knight to c6 and try to play e5. So it leads to really interesting positions full of fight. And actually Fischer used to play this variation from black against d4, and so it was quite logical that he opted to play King's Indian attack against the Sicilian as well, because he basically takes the same setup: d3, g3, bishop g2, short castle, and knight to d2, and white plays for attack on the king side. It's even better to play this setup against this particular system by black when black has already committed e6. That's what Fischer mentions in his book, because as we saw earlier, black needs to control the center with his pawns, and now he has already committed e6, so he won't be able to easily get d5 e5 setup. And white instead, because we are also a move up, we are the ones who are trying to play e5 ourselves and gain more space. Okay, so let's go. d3, his opponent played knight c6, g3, and here again black has many setups to choose from. He opted to go knight f6 in the game, but for example, probably the most important option here would be to play d5, going with the theme controlling the center. Then you develop the bishop to d6 and knight to e7. So you're basically controlling the e5 square as well when the bishop is on d6. And Fischer played a very good game against Ivkov in 1966 in the same line. So basically he went knight bd2 here, bishop d6, bishop g2, knight e7, castle, castle. So now black has already controlled e5, and let's say if we go rook e1, he can either go queen c7, or he could even go f6, right? He can do that. So instead Fischer decided to play knight h4 here, which is a nice idea, with the idea to play f4 on the next move and then e5. He won a really nice game in this line, and actually most of Fischer's games in this line are full of tactics. And I was preparing for this video, I went through all his games in this line as well, and I think it's a great starting point to simply study this line. And Sicilian is such a popular variation from black, so from white you can simply study this setup and try out, and who knows, maybe you'll crush all your opponents in blitz. At least that's my plan. So next time I play blitz, I'm surely playing this. Feel very inspired. Another setup I wanted to show was, instead of knight f6, black can go g6 here and fianchetto his bishop and develop his knight to e7, and again try for d5. So this is another setup that black can take, or he can even play d6 controlling e5 square. Sorry, let's make it green. Yeah, so these are the options black has. By the way, when you I'm using Chessbase software, and in Chessbase green means like important square or something, and red means weak square. So whenever I show a green arrow, it means it's important, and red means it's weak, just for all the viewers who haven't used Chessbase. Knight f6, bishop g2, bishop e7. This is the main game. Short castle, and here again black had the option of going d5, but which is what Fischer expected, but he chose not to do it. So already Fischer realized that his opponent has other plans. When your opponent has the option to play something and he doesn't go for it, it could be either because it's an oversight or because he has some other plans. He probably doesn't want to go for it at all. So that's a good point, that's a good hint, you know, for you to think कि अरे ठीक है इसका कुछ और idea है शायद. So here for castle, Fischer played knight b d2, but actually here he can even go e5. This is an option and he did consider it, I suppose. It leads to some interesting position. For example, knight g4, you will attack the pawn, rook e1, you support it, and then black plays f6, ef6, knight f6. And I was checking some games here. So basically the first idea that comes to mind is c3 d4, which is the standard plan in this variation, and also you want to control the center, as I have emphasized many times already. So this is one option, or actually this is another option here, to play a3, like next move a3 and b4. Basically this pawn also controls the center, right? This c5 pawn, it's controlling the d4 square, so you try to undermine it by attacking it from the flank. So that is one idea. So there are several ideas in this position, but Fischer decided to play for the normal knight b d2, c3 d4 e5 plan. So he will basically go c3 d4 and e5 on the next moves. That's his idea. And here Sherwin played a mysterious move, rook b8, which was a novelty at that time. And Fischer was very surprised by this move. He mentions, you know, in the annotations that Sherwin slid the rook here with his pinky like this, as if to emphasize the cunningness of his mysterious move. So basically guys, when your opponent plays a new move, it's natural to feel a little taken aback or a little uneasy, because you haven't obviously checked it or seen it earlier. It could be a strong move, so you have to definitely think about what could be the idea behind it. But it also means it could also mean that it is probably not the best move, because otherwise you might have seen it earlier in Grandmaster games at least. So there could be a refutation for it as well. And one of the issues with rook b8, I feel, is, I mean, I checked some games and it has been played even recently, but I feel it's a bit slow. I mean, white is ready to carry out his plan with occupying the center with c3, d4 and e5. Whereas black is like casually chilling, you know, playing rook b8, then he'll play b5 at his own pace. Sorry, he'll play b5 at his own pace and things like that. So I just feel these kind of positions are easier to play for white, because you are getting to do what you want to do and your opponent is not really countering it very strongly. So I also would be happy if my opponent plays like this, and I think Fischer was also feeling good about it. So he played rook e1 with the threat to play e5, so black prevents it with d6. He also had this opportunity to play d5 here, but then white would have played e5, knight d7, and either c3 followed by d4, yeah, that is one possibility, or just knight f1 followed by h4, and then at some point c3 and d4 later. Even bishop f4 actually. So these plans exist. But black played d6 here, not d5. He wants to keep it solid. White played c3. Now again, black could have played b5, tried to create some counterplay. And Fischer gives this very nice line here, with which I would like to show. It's actually very pretty. d4. We go on with our plan. b4. Now e5. Now, of course, black can take d e5 this is the main line which we'll come to later. But Fischer gives this nice idea that after bc3, we actually win a piece by force. So for those of you who want to solve this problem, maybe you can pause the video and think for 5 minutes. So here we take on f6. Now the e7 bishop is hanging, but he takes on d2, so that if we take on e7 now, d into e1 is a check. But instead, we can simply go back with our knight. It's a backward move with our knight. We take on d2, and now we opened our bishop. We opened our bishop's path, and it attacks the knight on c6. And of course, our pawn on f6 is still alive, so it still attacks the bishop on e7, and we win a piece by force. So this is a nice line. But the thing is, over here, instead of bc, black will probably take d into e5, and knight d7. Actually, this position, according to the engine is equal, but I still would prefer to play white. Here, for example, knight e4, we give up the pawn. It's a pawn sacrifice for some compensation, and bishop f4. Now you see the rook on b8. I mean, oh my god, it's like pinned, and it's getting into a lot of trouble. So the main option would be to take on d1, opt to go for the end game and support the knight with f6. But here already we can spoil black's pawn structure, and in this position there is a nice maneuver. Basically, black's pawn structure is quite bad here. Even though he's a pawn up, he has difficulty developing his pieces also, because let's say you move the c8 bishop, let's say okay, let's make a random move here, h4, right? And he plays bishop b7. Then we get rook to d7. Rook on the 7th rank is really strong. So there are these issues that black still has to solve. And at this point, we have a very nice move like bishop f1, remaneuvering our bishop to the best diagonal, which is a to g8 right now, eyeing this pawn. And I think even though we are a pawn down, we are the ones who are fighting for initiative here. Usually, I mean, even this position is given as equal by the engine, but usually, in equal positions also, it is just a matter of taste. What do you prefer? Do you prefer to play with a pawn up, or do you prefer to play with initiative and compensation? So that is a choice you need to make. And I would definitely prefer to play white in this position. So let's go back. He did not play, Sherwin did not go for b5. He went b6 here. Okay, it's a little passive. And we can simply continue with our plan. So Fischer played d4. Usually, when you say A, you have to say B next. So that's normal, and it's even good here. Even here, Sherwin could have taken CD and still played d5, control, keep the center closed. This was probably a better choice. No, not probably. Definitely a better choice than what he played, because he got into a lot of trouble in the game. But here also, this position, again, I would prefer to play white. I mean, you have all these things coming in, right? Like you can play h4 first of all. You can put your knight to e3. Then you can reroute your bishop to f1, d3, and h7 pawn, the king basically. So I think, you get this typical King's Indian attack position from white, and this is your aim anyway. So you get it, and white has nothing to complain about. Black played queen c7 instead of d5, instead of cd4 though. And now again the problem, this rook on b8 and queen on c7, they are on the same diagonal as we can see, and white exploits it really well with a timely center break. e5, knight d5, and now, okay, actually he should have taken de5 here, you know, de, knight d7, queen e2. He should have gone for this position. It was a much better option. But he decided to play knight d5 here, and actually this is already much better for white. So white took on d6 here, which is also good, but here white had a way to clear advantage by playing c4 first. So you are undermining this knight on d5, and it has only one square to go, b4. And now black is threatening knight d3, so you have to be careful. You can't play a3 here. So you first take on d6, and whichever piece takes on d6, let's say bishop into d6, we anyway play knight e4. Now we are controlling this d3 square with the queen, and we are now threatening a3. So now the knight, after a3, the knight has to go to a6, where it's in a corner and knight on the rim is always dim. So it's kind of useless there, and for a long time it will remain shut out from the rest of the game. And another important threat we have here is knight into d6, queen d6, and bishop f4. And this weakness on the diagonal, it really tells. And there is no easy way for black to counter it. I mean, for example, let's say you play cd4 here, we anyway take on d6 and play bishop f4. So there is frankly no easy way to counter this threat, and white was already close to winning here. But Fischer did not go for this. He took on d6 instead. And black took on d6 with the bishop and knight e4 now. But now black saw that white is threatening c4 next and take on d6. So black decided to play c4, which is a good move. Knight into d6, queen into d6. So this is a good time to pause and look at the position. We have, as white, we have taken control of the center, and we have two bishops now. We have the pair of bishops now, and it's an open position. So it's definitely advantageous to us. But still, work needs to be done. It's not like a big advantage or something. We need to work hard and improve our position. And it's very nice. It's very nice to see how Fischer improves his position and exploits his advantage to the maximum after this. So the next move he played is a really good one. I really like it. He played knight g5. He has two ideas with this move. One is to play queen h5 and create some pressure against the black king. And the other is to reroute it to e4, from where it will be really strong, and knight in the center controls a lot of squares, a lot of space, and it will be really well placed there. So knight g5 was a really good move, and here black had to play h6 actually, which he didn't. He played knight c e7 instead. But I wanted to show you a nice variation after h6, which results in equality, but it's really pretty, and I wanted to show it. So h6, knight e4, queen d7, because anyway black wants to develop the bishop to b7, so it's not really blocking the bishop's path. And here queen h5. Our idea is to make some sacrifice on h6 maybe and play against the black king. Black plays bishop b7, and now bishop h6, g6, queen h6, with the idea to play knight g5 next move and give queen h7 mate. And now, so black plays f6 to prevent knight g5, and I checked this position with the engine and it showed me such a nice move here. So the move is, would definitely recommend you to pause and think for yourself. The move here is, guys, knight to d6, just giving the knight for free. But basically we are distracting the queen. It's called deflection. This theme is called deflection. If the queen, we are distracting the queen from the second rank basically. This is the second rank, and if the queen gets deflected from the second rank, oof, sorry, just a moment. Yeah, let's say black takes queen to d6. Then we give queen g6 check, and now he doesn't have queen g7 in between, so he has to play king h8, and we play rook e4 and rook h4 mate. And it's a forced mate, you cannot stop it. So, I mean, of course, you can play knight f4, but then rook into f4 and you're winning the queen. So that's fine. So yeah, this was a really nice trick, but of course, engine, you know, engine will always find a defense as well as it just in 30 seconds, it finds everything. No respect anyway. So knight d6, black coolly plays knight d8 here. It's such an incredibly hard move to find. I don't think it's normal at all, and it's not easy at all to see what is the purpose of this move. So there are two things this move does. This move protects the pawn on e6, yeah, and later you can also go knight f7 attacking this queen, but not now, because now if you play knight f7, I'll play queen g6 on the next move. You need the queen to as well. Now rook e4. Now we are threatening rook g4 check. So black prevents it by playing queen g7. And here queen d2. Okay, these are hard. These moves are hard to find. I agree. f5, rook h4, and knight f7. Okay, this is a really difficult position to play. And after knight b7, rook b7, comp gives it as equal. But finally, it's up to your taste. Do you want to play with the piece up, or do you want to play with attack and compensation? I think I'm not sure what kind of decision I would take. I think it would depend on the match situation. But if it's a normal game, then I'll probably play this position. I'll probably play this position from white, play rook e1 the next move, and play for attack. I wanted to show one more line, sorry, I forgot to show it. After knight d6, if black plays queen g7, because this is the most obvious move, right? Black would like to exchange the queens and go into endgame with a piece up. You can simply take it, king into g7, knight into b7, rook into b7, and now rook into e6, attacking both the knights at once. So obviously, if you go back with this knight, you can just take the knight with the bishop and you'll be a piece up. So he has to go back with knight c e7, but then rook d6, and now because this knight is pinned, because the rook is still on b7, you still win the knight anyway, and you win the game. I mean, you have so many pawns up, like 1000 pawns up, and you can happily chill and win the game. So yeah, this line was really nice to see and analyze. But black did not play h6. He went for knight c e7. ब्लैक को लगा क्या उसमें क्या नाइट h7 कहाँ आ रहा है, क्वीन h5 आएगा तो नाइट f6 खेल लूंगा, मतलब इतना क्या है, you know. तो he just decided to bring his pieces towards his king to help for the defense, which is also logical. So instead of queen h5, of course, just now we discussed for queen h5, black will play knight f6, supporting h7 and attacking the queen at the same time. So this doesn't make much sense right now. So white played queen c2, which is a nice move. You're attacking the king from this diagonal now. It's eyeing h7. So actually he could have played knight f6 here, I think. No, he can't play knight f6 because of bishop f4. Sorry, I'm blundering. Yeah, he can't play knight f6 because of bishop f4, and this rook is free, and we are winning the game in one move. So hence black played knight g6 here. So now, which is the most logical move on the board, guys? Like your knight is on g6. Your opponent's knight is on g6. It's covering the queen's diagonal. You want to attack it. How will you attack it? h4. h4, that's right. That's the best move in this position. Just h4, h5. Anyway, this is our idea in the King's Indian attack. So it should be a natural move if you have studied this variation. So h4 white played and black played knight f6 now. Now white cannot go bishop f4 because the knight on g6 covers it, and h7 is already protected by the f6 knight. So you know, black was thinking कि हाँ मेरा position तो बहुत अच्छा है, सब कुछ covered है, कुछ problem नहीं है मुझे life में. अभी अगर मैं h5 खेलेगा white तो black will just take on h5, and even now for bishop f4 you will take it with this knight. So that's also fine. So black was feeling pretty chill and comfortable with his position. But Fischer found an incredible resource here. Knight into h7. So let's see, how does it work? In general, how do you find such a move? First of all, you have to sort of feel in this position कि there must be something, because basically if there is, you know, there are so many pieces, all your pieces are well placed. You know, this bishop is well placed. This bishop is also very well placed because it can go on f4 anytime, right? And this knight is incredibly placed. This queen is incredibly placed. This pawn is like awesome. So you have to just feel कि ये position मेरे लिए बहुत अच्छा है और अभी कुछ तो आना चाहिए. And usually when you're looking for tactics, you calculate captures first. That's the easiest way to look for tactics, or maybe checks and captures, like Dr. Sagar Shah always says, you know. So h4, knight f6, you look for what are the captures possible, and especially around the black's king, because that is what we are looking at, right, from the first move in this variation. So that's how you can find this move, knight h7. Now black has two choices. One is to capture with the knight and one is to capture with the king. If you take with the king, then this knight is pinned now because of the queen, and you simply play bishop f4. ये तो हमारा ड्रीम था, है ना? इससे पहले भी हमने एक बार ब्लंडर करके वो रुक दे दिया था एक वेरिएशन में, और अभी फिर से वो रुक चला जाएगा. So king h7 is not possible. So knight h7 is the only move which he played on the board. But now h5. We push this knight back, and then we play bishop f4 anyway and take the exchange. So you see that rook on b8, it has caused so much problem for black the whole game. Anyway, so knight h7, h5, and here black found a really nice move, and that's the reason Fischer says too little and too late, because even though he found this fighting idea, Fischer feels it was just too late because already white का position बहुत अच्छा हो गया है, और end में मतलब आप जब बहुत ही हार रहे हो तब आप जितनी भी fight करो, अगर आपका opponent अच्छा player है तो वो convert कर ही लेगा. That doesn't mean you don't put up a fight, you should, but that's the point, you know. It would have been better if पहले ही कुछ resources ढूंढ लिए होते. So black played a really nice move here, by the way. It's hard to find. Played knight h4. I think it's really like sort of counterintuitive. I mean, anyway the knight is hanging on g6 and then you anyway give it for free, and you're also allowing bishop f4, which happened in the game. So it doesn't even cover the bishop f4, the f4 square. So what exactly are we doing? The point is, after queen d8, which happened in the game, if white takes bishop b8, you simply take on g2 with the knight, king into g2, and now bishop b7 check, and the bishop on f4 is bishop on b8 is hanging. So this was the point, and I think it was a good decision by Fischer. I mean, in general, I mean, of course, it was a good decision by Fischer to not take the knight on g2. I mean, he could have not take the rook on b8, because he could have played something like maybe rook e2 here or somewhere else, maybe rook e2. But then anyway, bishop b7, and then even though the knight is awkward here, but it's not really clear. And also, oh my god, this knight is coming to g5 and it's coming to h3, and it's a little dangerous. It's actually very dangerous. So we basically passed on the initiative to black in our greed to take the exchange. We shouldn't do that. Always keep the initiative. That is what we are learning from Fischer's game. So he doesn't take the exchange. He instead takes the knight on h4. So now after queen h4, the rook is still hanging. So he needs to protect it. So he gives up the exchange again for this bishop, this incredible powerful bishop of ours, which we don't want to give up at any cost because it also covers our king. It protects our king. And after bishop b7, again our king becomes, it is our king. Actually, all this while we were playing against black's king, but now black will play against our king because it's much weaker than our opponents. So Fischer rightly decided not to take it, and he found another nice move. So this is what I love about Fischer's games, he just finds good moves after good moves, and just finishes off his opponents. Like when he is in control, he just takes charge and it's amazing. It's amazing to see his technique actually. He played h6 here, which is a great move. He's basically weakening the black's king further. He's provoking weaknesses. And if black would have played, let's say, g6, white has another pawn here on the h file. So we push that as well. h5, and if g5, we simply go bishop e5. And this king is really so sad, so sad. So this was one way. Black instead took the pawn on h4. So h into g7. Black took king g7. And here again, Fischer found a very nice move to finish the game. So, okay, how do we find this move? One is, of course, we calculate checks and captures. Actually, many moves are winning here, to be very honest. But when I was thinking over this position, I wanted to play rook e3, of course, right? To go to g3. But the problem is this bishop is hanging. So it doesn't make sense to keep this bishop hanging. So another idea that came to mind was bishop e5, but then he'll play f6. And now the rook might come to the king's defense on the second rank because we just helped our opponent, I feel, by provoking f6. So Fischer, that's why, did not play bishop e5 or rook e3, but he played rook e4 here with the idea to play bishop e5. So he is threatening to play bishop e5 check and then take the queen on h4. So he has to move the queen on h4. And now, because the bishop is not attacked anymore, we can simply go back rook e3 and rook g3. This was a very nice maneuver. Black played f5. He still wants to bring the rook to his defense, like of the second rank. Okay, this position is actually already winning because, rook h3, and now he can even simply take both the exchanges by this, like playing this, and this is completely winning. But Fischer, he wants to, just be very precise. He played bishop e5 check. Here there was a nice mate after king g8. Please find it. Please take 5 minutes and try to find it. So the mate is rook g3, king f7, and now mate in 1, guys. Rook g7 check. So this was a nice mate which his opponent did not allow. He played knight f6. So you bring your queen. Now the queen is not doing anything on c2 because the f5 pawn blocked it. So you bring it back to the game by playing queen d2, and now you're going to g5. You're just rerouting your queen. King f7, running away, queen g5. If he plays king e7, we have rook h7 check here. The knight is pinned. If he goes king d8, then f6 is hanging. I mean, everything is hanging, b7 is hanging, and if he plays rook f7, then queen f6 is hanging because this rook is still pinned. So, yeah, so this was also not possible. Then he played queen e7. Now he simply took bishop f6, queen f6 and rook h7. King e8, queen f6. अभी rook f6 मारता तो just bishop b7 मार के he would have become a rook up and won the game. Instead, black played rook h7. And now the final move, guys. फाइनली हमारा जो ये बिशप है g2 पे जो इतना देर इधर ही बैठा था फोर्थ मूव के बाद, फिफ्थ मूव के बाद, बिशप c6 चेक, एक मूव दिया गेम में और रिजाइन कर दिया ओपोनेंट ने. Because okay, if you play bishop d7, you can just take on e6 and this is winning. So yeah, I wanted to show you this game. It gave me so much joy, and to go through it again and check all the variations, and in general, you know, it brought back many childhood memories. I hope you learned something from this game. This is the final position, by the way. So I hope you guys also enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if I should change something in my like if you liked the way I showed it, if you have any doubts about it, please let me know. If you like the video, please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Also, before I end, I just wanted to say that, you know, Fischer, he contributed so much to the game. I mean, it's not just the fact that he was the first of all, he was the only non-Soviet Union player at that time who was in the top, and he really you know, was fighting on his own. He had no team, or he did not even have much family support. Actually, he was completely on his own, and he had so much inner strength. I mean, I'm simply in awe of him. Everybody is, that he just stood alone and fought all these top players on the board and proved himself. He even worked by himself. As far as I know, as far as I have read, he did not have a team of seconds even during his World Championship match against Spassky. I mean, he was provided with 2 seconds, but he did not really use them. He worked on his own even during the World Championship match and won it. And even apart from his contribution, like game contribution, in the sense of what he has contributed otherwise, you know, he made the sport so much more professional because he demanded for better conditions, better prize money. And because of him, we have a lot more prize money now. He just made it very professional. And this increment, you know, you must be following the games now. So increment रहता है, 30 seconds increment, 5 seconds increment. हर move के बाद. This is the Fischer clock, which Fischer introduced, and now everybody is using it, right? And even Fischer random. I mean, कल तक St. Louis में Fischer random चल रहा था. And that is also a variant introduced by Fischer. I mean, such an amazing genius. And I'm just so happy to show this game and go through all his games once again. So thank you for watching. I hope this game inspired you a little bit to see chess and go through Fischer's games by yourself. And take care. See you. Bye.